Hi, my fellow screenwriting enthusiasts. It's Paul from Small Town Movie Critic. If you're new to the channel, we're about helping you write that kick-ass screenplay by giving you tips, tools, inspiration, and product reviews. Now, in today's video, we're going to be talking about where to start in terms of screenwriting. I'm going to give you an easy 5-step process that will help get you started in the right direction. We'll take an initial idea that you have and we'll turn it into a rough outline. So you may be wondering, where do I get this idea? Well, this idea can come from a lot of different forms. You might get an idea watching a TV or maybe even a commercial, or maybe you're playing a video game with a friend of yours or maybe your child, or maybe you're reading a novel or some other type of book and suddenly this idea forms out of nowhere. It seems like you're taking a situation that you see in some of these other media. Maybe it's a type of character that you like, or maybe it's a particular scene and you're like, well, this would be really cool, but here's the twist I want to make on that. And when we have ideas like this, we get really excited because it's really interesting, because we like the material that hopefully we're reading or interacting with, and we're like, hey, I can do something with that. I can make it better than what it is. Now, if you're feeling like this at this particular point, one of the best things you can do right now is to either get a journal or maybe even a set of note cards. And here's step number 1 of this 5-step process. The first thing I want you to do is simply write the idea down. Now, this seems pretty easy, right? But believe me, for most people who want to be writers, myself included, prior to this year, this idea would normally just sit in our minds. It would never leave our minds and go to the paper. And basically, that idea would simply just turn around and around like a big Ferris wheel in our mind, not get anywhere. By writing this idea down, you're doing one of the most important things in your screenwriting career, which is you are taking action. Again, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but for most folks, they don't even get this far. Now, I used to be this type of writer. I call myself an idea man. And boy, if you needed an idea, I could come up with one with you right on the spot. Now, I'm not saying that ideas are bad or sharing them is bad. What I am saying is, if you want to be a writer or you fancy yourself one, then you need to take action on your idea. And this is where the hard work comes in. And I've actually talked about writing being one of the hardest parts of screenwriting, and I will link that particular video up here somewhere in the top part of the video. Or I'll leave it in the comment section below, whatever works best. So you got your idea down for the one scene or that great line of dialogue or some unforgettable character. So what do you do next? So let's massage that idea a little bit. And here comes in step 2. Let's take about 5 minutes and brainstorm some more about this idea that you have. And here's the thing about this brainstorming session that I think will blow your mind. I want you to remove your inner critic. You're going to take 5 minutes and you're going to write the first thing that comes to your mind, even if it doesn't make any sense. No judgment, no shame, just write. And even if that idea or suggestion seems dumb, I simply want you to write it down. So I want you to take some time right now. If you're in the process of doing this, stop the video, and I want you to take that 5 minutes and write down and do this brainstorming session. And remember, it doesn't matter what you write. Just get the words to the page. What you're doing is, a lot of time, is your idea will spark new ideas. So even if it doesn't make any sense right now, write it down. And really, if you're going to do this, you need to take action. You need to stop the video and do that action right now. Because the screenplay isn't going to write itself. Okay, how did that short exercise feel? Was it hard? Was it easy? Do you feel like all you did was just come up with some hot garbage? Well, believe it or not, there are always some nuggets inside that pile of trash that you just produced. The other cool thing is, as you're looking back into your brainstorming session, you might see something that looks ridiculous but actually causes a new spark of an idea. Just don't be too hard on yourself. This is a new process for most people. We as writers and creative folks tend to have these really aggressive critics within inside of us that make it hard for us to get any idea on a paper. We always self-censor ourselves so easily and too easily, instead of letting that wonderful imagination that we have be able to roam free. So now we have some more ideas. I want you to take the ideas you like or tweak or are inspired by, and I want you to write them down either on that same journal that you're using or on some new note cards. And for each idea, use a new note card if you're going to be doing a note card, so that way you can move the note cards around if you need to. Now for step 3. I want you to look for a theme around the ideas that you've written down. Does it center around a particular genre? maybe about love, maybe are there some action scenes. This will help us get a little bit more focused on what you want to go with your idea. Now maybe you'll notice that there's a love story type of theme developing, or maybe there are a lot of horror elements, or maybe it's a coming of age movie. I just want you to notice this and write it down in your notebook, or again, if you have those note cards, take some time and write them down on note cards, or maybe you like to use Word. For myself, I use a lot of Word documents, so let's write those down. Now, I want you to think about what sort of things happen in this type of movie. So if you're not sure, watch some popular and good movies from this particular type of movie. So if you're thinking of a horror movie, what are some horror movies that would be good to watch? Or if you're thinking of a coming of age movie, what type of coming of age movies do you really enjoy? And what do you think work well? And as you're doing that, sort of think of what sort of elements from the genre or type of story is your idea missing. Take some time and do some more brainstorming around this idea. Again, I want you to take and no judgments, no shame. If it's a hot piece of trash that you're writing, that's particularly fine. No judgment at all. Turn that inner critic off and just write those ideas down. And pick out those nuggets as you find them within that trash. Now, before we go on to step 4, if you're finding some value in this video, I'd please ask you to like and subscribe. We have other content that we put out twice a week, and so please, if you find this valuable, please do that. It helps the channel out a lot. Now for step 4. Now I'd like to applaud you right now if you've made it this far in the process, especially if you've physically done each step, because most people would simply dropped their idea by now. Next, I'd like you to think about the end of the movie. Yes, the end. What's that last scene going to look like? And the reason that this is important because you know how the finish line looks like. Now you can sort of reverse engineer how the beginning and middle of your screenplay should look. And as you think about that scene, how do you picture your hero or heroine? Where are they? What traits do they have at the end? What have they gone through so far to get to this point? So I want you to write that all out, either again in a Word document, or on note cards, or whatever you feel best with capturing all this information. So this leads us to step 5. One of the things that make a story very compelling is this thing called change. And knowing the ending, where does your hero or heroine begin? You know what their characteristics are at the end, so now you can know what the opposite of those characteristics are. And this will more likely be how your character would begin the story. For an example, let's take a look at Luke Skywalker in Star Wars. At the beginning of the movie, he's a young kid who's more worried about his needs than anybody else. Remember, hey, I got to go to Tashi Station to get some power converters, right? You remember him saying that. However, at the end of the movie, he's changed, right? He's fighting to save other people. He isn't worried about his own skin as much. And we've seen some growth over the movie, which is why Luke Skywalker is an interesting character, which helps make Star Wars an interesting movie. Now, I would encourage you to watch your favorite movie and then look to see how the characters changes from the beginning of the movie to the end. And knowing this difference, you can now plot some points from the beginning to the end. And if you get stuck, just remember step 3. Put in some pieces around this type of story that you're writing. And after you look at all this and you plot it all down on a sheet of paper and stuff, you're going to notice that your simple idea has now been sort of fleshed out to a little bit of an outline. And you can do this all in a couple of hours, or an hour, or a couple of days even. I know this is a pretty simple 5-step process, but it will get you closer to writing that kick-ass screenplay. Remember, daily action is what is going to get you closer to finishing your screenplay. Let me know what you think about this 5-step process. How do you feel doing this? Does your idea have some legs, or are you going to start off with a new script idea? Remember to keep writing, and I will see you in the next video.